2 years ago, at 29, I finally broke my silence about a sexual assault that had occurred 7 years prior. The 2 years following that disclosure have been a relentless, agonizing nightmare. The trauma manifested physically as well as mentally, forcing me through multiple surgeries and intensive pelvic floor physical therapy. My body simply ceased to function sexually, triggering severe dyspareunia and pelvic pain that made intimacy impossible. Through this physical collapse, I clung desperately to my relationship with my boyfriend. He was intensely sexual, and as my health deteriorated, his profound frustration and growing resentment over our lack of physical intimacy warped our dynamic into an unbearable strain. My physical condition began directly impacting my nervous system and mental health, creating an inescapable loop of anxiety, physical pain, and emotional distress. Now, I am back living in my childhood home, facing the reality that he is no longer in my life. Without the relationship serving as a constant distraction, I am left alone with my thoughts in the silence of a small town where everyone knows everyone else's business. The cruel, degrading words my ex used to throw at me have finally settled deep into my mind. I look back at my 20s and feel an overwhelming wave of shame, driven by deep-seated father issues and an intense lack of self-worth. I spent those years engaging in heavy drug use, reckless partying, and unhealthy relationships with men 30 years my senior. I slept through a single, tightly knit friend group, completely disconnected from my own value or long-term ambitions. The humiliation is amplified by my current surroundings. My cousin, who grew up with the most conventional, picture-perfect lifestyle, lives right next door as my neighbor. To make the dynamic even more painful, her husband happens to be one of the men from that exact same former friend group. I am constantly reminded of the past just by looking out my window. At 31, I am navigating a total identity crisis. I feel like a ghost of myself, damaged goods with a body that feels broken and a reputation that precedes me. I find myself terrified of the future, wondering if I will have to lie about my past forever just to be accepted. In a world where men seeking committed, serious relationships want to know your history, I feel entirely unqualifiable as a life partner. I catch myself believing I am completely unlovable, permanently stained by choices made while drowning in unaddressed trauma. Yet, sitting in this quiet space is forcing me to do something I should have done a decade ago: stop running and accept the reality of what happened. Acknowledging this past does not mean agreeing with the hateful labels placed on me by bitter exes or small-town gossip. It means recognizing that a traumatized, lost young woman used unhealthy coping mechanisms to survive, and that those choices do not have to define the rest of my life.